What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to BR's Draft Board Show. I'm Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus, here to have a little bit of an NFL draft conversation here with you guys. We talked about the quarterback position last week, some of my top quarterbacks in the draft, set the stage a little bit for what the 2026 NFL draft could be. So what better way to continue that conversation with a little top 10 mock draft? We're not doing a full mock draft here on the show. Can't give you guys all the goods right off the bat, but we do kind of have a good idea of the teams that are going to be picking in the top 10 when it comes to April in the 2026 NFL draft. So let's set the stage for them specifically. It's Thanksgiving week, so let's set the table, I probably should say, of the meals that we're going to have, and some of the prospects that some of these teams are going to have the option to choose from. So we'll have a lot of fun. We'll talk about these prospects. I'll give you some PFF numbers with all of these guys to see a little bit of highlights with them, what they do well. We'll talk about why they would be considered for the top 10, not just because of the positions of need for some of these teams, although we'll get into that as well. But specifically, what makes these players the most coveted players in the 2026 NFL draft? So the order, of course, it could change, but the Tennessee Titans right now have the number one overall pick. And with the number one overall pick, I think we kind of have to have the conversation of, are they going to trade down from this selection? Now, we're not doing trade downs here in this mock draft, but I think it is very likely that they could be trading down from number one if they end up getting number one. Now, of course, they have Cam Ward. That's the reason why. They feel like they are pretty good at the quarterback spot there. And so anytime you have the quarterback and you're picking at the top of the draft, you're going to be looking elsewhere. So they're going to see if one of those teams, maybe the Raiders, the Browns, the Jets, perhaps want to trade up and get one of those quarterbacks. Who knows which teams are really gunning for quarterbacks when it comes to this April. But with them sticking at number one, I'm going to have them taking the best player in all of college football. I think we've cooled down on this guy a little bit because of such a fast start that we had from him at Miami, and that's Ruben Bain Jr., the edge rusher there for the Hurricanes. He's been unbelievable. Basically, elite PFF grades every single place that you look. Overall grades, pass rush grades, run defense grades, incredible pass rush win percentage, over 20%, over 25% for a good portion of this season as well. The Tennessee Titans need a difference maker on the defensive line. They really do. They got Jeffrey Simmons. He's playing like an all-pro this year. Jeffrey Simmons actually having a career year in a lot of ways, but this is the guy. You see the plays that he has on the screen here. He is a one-man game wrecker. He has got the size at over 270 pounds to be able to play on the line of scrimmage with his hand in the dirt. He can play a 5 technique for you. You could even kick him inside. He can play a little 3 technique. He can play a 4-eye if you want to go with the 3 down front as well. And yet this dude is so talented. He's so explosive that he can even rush from a stand-up outside linebacker position too. He can do it all. And again, he started off really hot to start the season, and he's been good since. I want to be very clear about that. He's been fantastic since. But I think that some people are just like, we talked about him in September. We don't really need to hear about it. What have you done for me lately? Let's talk about the new guy. I'm bored of talking about Ruben Bain Jr. You should not get bored of talking about Ruben Bain Jr. He is absolutely fantastic. And with him going number one overall here in this mock draft, it got me to thinking, and I asked the Microsoft Copilot, how many edge rushers have gone number one overall and then earned an all-pro after that? Because I feel like there's tons of pass rushers that go number one overall, but who's been successful when it comes to that? You got guys, my boy Leroy Selman. My Twitter handle is Tampa Bay Trade People. You know I'm a Tampa Bay Buccaneers guy. So Leroy Selman's one of them. Trayvon Walker was one of them. Jadeveon Clowney, Mario Williams. A lot of guys from the answer that we got from Microsoft Copilot. So, man, answer any question that you possibly want. That was the one I had when we were going through this mock draft, and it very easily gave us the answer right like that. So, plenty of precedent for Ruben Bain Jr. to go number one overall and absolutely live up to that hype there. Okay, let's talk about who's number two. Going to the New York Giants, another team that I think could absolutely trade down, if they get the right package here. I think that could make a lot of sense for them if there's a quarterback worth it, right? We talk about Dante Moore and Fernando Mendoza. I think that there's plenty of players that could make sense for the New York Giants if they stick here at number two. But I think it all just depends on what the trade package for them could be if they want to move back from that top 3 overall selection. If you don't need a quarterback, and it doesn't look like they do because they've got Jackson Dart, then you got to entertain it. You got to entertain it, right? Even with the number 2 overall pick, you got to talk about a trade down, and you got to think that could be a realistic possibility for them. But like we said at the top, we're not going with trades here on this show. We're sticking to it, and we're saying if this team ends up picking in the slot, what does that look like? I look at wide receiver. I look at wide receiver here, and I look at Arizona State's Jordan Tyson as the guy that could really take this offense to the next level. He's been a little banged up this year, but every single game that he has played, he has given us the proof that he can be a number one type of a wide receiver in the NFL. And now we're talking about pairing him with Malik Neighbors, right? So you get that 1-2 combination that these two guys have. I mean, look at these plays. These are difference-making plays over the middle, to the sideline, spectacular catches, fantastic stuff here from Jordan Tyson. Him and Malik Neighbors as a 1-2 combo, I think it's just so ideal. It's so ideal for this offense. It's exactly what Jackson Dart would want. He's a vertical pressing quarterback. He wants to take shots deep down the field. That's where Jordan Tyson is best. That's where Malik Neighbors is best. When you pair that with Cam Scatterbo when he's going to be fully healthy next year, you've got a decent offensive line. You can improve it even more this offseason. I think that the Giants could fast track whoever their next head coach is going to be. It could fast track that offense into really competing in that division if you get a guy like Jordan Tyson. So to me, totally worth that spot at number 2 overall. You have to think about the trades because the price that you could get for a team moving up for a quarterback might be too much to pass up. To be honest with you, you could probably trade back and still get Jordan Tyson. There's some wheeling and dealing that you could make and get. It could give you a lot of confidence to not just move back, but still get the guy that you were going to take at number 2 overall. But even if they're staying, you don't want to just force a need here. But this guy's talent, this guy is absolutely worth a top 5 pick. The talent is worth a top 5 pick. And so him with the Giants, I think it's a perfect fit for what Jackson Dart wants to do there. Let's go to number 3. This is where we start to have the quarterback conversation because it's the New Orleans Saints now on the clock here. And what do we think about this? With them picking number 3, basically comes down to, do they have enough faith in Tyler Shough? I was kind of shocked at how aggressive they were to go get Tyler Shough in last year's draft. You're spending a 2nd-round pick on a quarterback who, well, there's a reason why he wasn't a 1st-round pick, and I think it's some inconsistencies throughout his career. He was a little bit of a journeyman with a couple of different stops. He's older in age. It's not like he was 21, 22 when you drafted him, and you're investing a 2nd-round pick in a guy that's going to continue to grow as he gets into his mid and late 20s. This is somebody who's already there at that point. And not to say that quarterbacks can't improve and play well within their 30s. I think that age is sometimes overblown here, but you were kind of in a situation where taking a quarterback in the 2nd round, it didn't feel like the right move for the Saints. And maybe we look at this in a month or so and we say, okay, it was the right move for them. We love Tyler Shough. Now they get to use this pick on an Arvell Reese, somebody where maybe they're trading back. Maybe it's a different offensive lineman. Like maybe if Jordan Tyson's on the board, they think about that as well. Now that they've traded Rashid Shaheed, there's a lot of options that can open up here if Tyler Shough ends up being the player that they really want him to be. But it's hard to think that a rookie's going to look good enough, especially a 2nd-round pick rookie is going to look good enough where you're not going to take the chance on a quarterback here in the 1st round if you end up picking in the top 3. With them sticking at this spot, I'm going to take a quarterback off the board. I'm going to take Fernando Mendoza off the board. And I know we went through my top 5 quarterbacks that we had last week, and I had Ty Simpson as my number 1 guy. In reality, when you listen to the conversation, it was him, it was Mendoza, it was Dante Moore from Oregon. It's all of those guys that I think, depending on which draft analyst you ask, they might have a different answer on who their QB1 is. But it feels as though consensus, a predictive sense of what we're doing here, has Fernando Mendoza as that top quarterback here in the draft. And the reason why is the arm talent. We broke down some of those opposite hash throws that we talked about last week, where he's on one hash and he is firing the football to the other hash or to the outside of the other side of the field on an out route. Great timing, great pace. That's really what he does very, very well. And you see him on the screen, got a little scoot to him as well, got a little mobility. I wouldn't call him quite a dual threat, but he's somebody that can certainly pick up some yards with his legs. And he's got those big time throws to him as well. He'll give guys a chance when they're one-on-one. He knows how to have those layered throws over the middle. Really good deep passing grade in PFF system, as you guys can see right there, an 88.9 overall passing grade, that 93 elite 93.0 deep passing grade. And the turnover worthy plays, they are so much less this year. And so a 1.8 turnover worthy play percentage, you feel pretty strongly about. Just to give you guys an idea of kind of what we talk about with quarterbacks, you want your big time throw percentage a little north of 5%. Anything in the 6% is fantastic, to be honest with you. And then you want a turnover worthy play percentage below 2%. And so that's sort of the barometer that you have there for quarterbacks. And Fernando Mendoza, he's doing a pretty good job at being right in that range, which is great compared to last year when he had more turnover-worthy plays than he did big-time throws when he was at Cal. So I think that he would be the pick there for the New Orleans Saints. I really do feel the most strongly about that. I wasn't the biggest Tyler Shuck fan going into last year's draft. I felt like the Saints specifically were taking a little bit too much of a risk in investing that pick with him there when I felt like they could have sort of had more of a team building aspect. I mean, you could have played Spencer Rattler for the entirety of this year, saw what you have in him. And again, if it works out for Tyler Shuck and he lights the world on fire during the last half of the season, we can come back and we can laugh at my take there as we kind of talk about some other positions that they're going to go after. But I just don't think that's going to be the case. And I think the Saints are instead going to be looking at a quarterback that they can invest in the top 5 because I think that is where they are landing. Shout out to Silent Tiger, very obviously a fan of the NFL Stock Exchange podcast, saying the Giants got the Legion of Whom in the secondary. It's not quite the Legion of Whom. Hold on. They still have Andrew Phillips. They've got Paulson Adebo. They have Javon Holland. They got Tyler Newman. They're not quite the Legion of Whom as we talked about for the Arizona Cardinals a couple of years ago, and the team that Monty Ossenfort had to inherit there with the Cardinals in a secondary that was not good. I would just say that. That's how we get the Legion of Whom name there. Got a couple of comments as well in the chat. One saying the quarterbacks are vastly overrated. Overrated sort of seems, I will say, overrated seems too harsh of a word. Is it as talented as a couple of years ago when it was Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels and Drake May? And is it that class? No, it's not. Is it the class that, although this doesn't seem great now in hindsight, the Trevor Lawrence, the Justin Fields, the Zach Wilson, like that class we talked about as such a star-studded class? I do think there are starters in this quarterback class, though. And obviously, you break down the league into 2 different types of teams, ones that have a franchise quarterback and ones that don't. And if you do not have one, you're going to be doing everything that you can to possibly draft one. And so I think that that's how we get to this quarterback conversation of guys going in the top 3 here. And obviously I had Fernando Mendoza going to the Saints there, dreaming, speaking of quarterbacks, dreaming, saying Raiders, draft a quarterback, please. We'll see. Sleeping Guardian says Saints drafting defense or Jeremiah Love. So, Jeremiah Love's an interesting, and this is the good part of this conversation here, and I'm glad that Sleeping Guardian brought this up in the chat, because that's the luxury of what you would want here if Tyler Shuck hits. If you feel good enough about Tyler Shuck going into next year, it frees you up to take a major difference maker like Caleb Downs, who we'll break down a little bit further in a bit. Arvell Reese to be a great pass rusher for you, right? When Cam Jordan's getting up there in age, I think Chase Young's been all right for them, but they need some speed and some youth on that defensive side of the ball. Why not is saying that they'll wait for Arch Manning to potentially take next year. Obviously, the legacy pick with Archie playing for the New Orleans Saints, I could certainly see them wanting to do that as well. So these are all the ideas that we can kind of talk about throughout the offseason. It'll be interesting to see where the consensus is with what the Saints are going to do at quarterback. I have them taking Mendoza here in this mock draft, which brings us into the New York Jets at number 4. I'm going to go another quarterback. I'm going to go Ty Simpson here. Look, Ty Simpson has struggled a little bit as of late, I will say, but just because there have been some downs doesn't mean there hasn't been ups as well. He struggled in that Oklahoma game, specifically against pressure. And Brent Venables, he's one of the best defensive coordinators in all of college football. And he was throwing a lot of mug looks with linebackers up towards the line of scrimmage. He was running a lot of simulated pressures. Okay, you got the 2 linebackers up. You also got the nickel corner who looks like he could be blitzing off the edge. And then all of a sudden, boom, 1 or 2 linebackers are coming. Maybe one of the defensive ends or defensive tackles are dropping in zones. And so it's these strange looks and these different types of pressures that really kind of threw Ty Simpson off. It wasn't too bad of a game, but it was a lower one when it came to that overall passing grade. But you go back just a week prior. Go back to that LSU game. Beautiful over the middle of the field throws. Navigating the pocket incredibly well. Standing firm. Layered throws over the middle. He can do all of these things. And so you got to remember, it's Ty Simpson's first year as a starter. And so you can't look at him as a total finished product here. I get it. He's a redshirt junior. He's a little bit older. But just because that's the case, you still got to afford him the ability to grow. And I think that he has done that throughout the season. He knows how to adjust protections at the line of scrimmage. He knows how to go through all of that. I think this guy could be a really good starter in the NFL. I do. Again, am I putting him up there with Jaden Daniels and Drake May and Caleb Williams? No, not quite. And that goes back to the comment in the chat we had a little bit earlier. But I still think that this player is one that you can build around. And so we'll explore a lot of possibilities here with the New York Jets, having 2 first-round picks this year, having 3 the next year, how this quarterback class looks and who ends up coming out and being in this quarterback class, I think could go a long way into the Jets and how aggressive they're going to be for a quarterback, because they could very easily sit back and, if Arch Manning goes back to school, if Dante Moore goes back to school, you got what Julian Sayin has been doing at Ohio State. You feel pretty good about those quarterbacks that are going to be there. Sam Levitt's probably coming back to school as well, so he'll probably be in the class next year. Lenore Sellers might come back to school. He might be in the class again as well. So I think the strength of this quarterback class might tell the tale of whether or not the New York Jets will be in on it. But let's say that they are. You see some of the PFF numbers on the screen. The intermediate throwing grade right there, which you guys can see all this stuff if you got a PFF Plus subscription. The intermediate throwing grade is what really stands out to me. Those layered throws over the middle of the field, between the hash marks, between the numbers, just there are so many concepts where I'm watching this film and it's like, okay, it's the timing of progressions is so NFL. It resembles so much of what you're going to have to go through in the NFL. Okay, this is the quick guy. He's going to the left. Okay, this is the longer post route that's going over top of him. If I'm going against zone coverages, I got to know which one's going to be open when. If I can't get to my second progression, I've got to be able to find, okay, where might be a scramble drill play. Like he understands a lot of that stuff. Does he execute it at the highest level yet? No, but to already be doing that the way that he is as a first-time starter, I like what I see in Ty Simpson. I really do. But let's move on to the Raiders. We had somebody in the chat saying, Raiders, they have to draft a quarterback. Look, Dante Moore, if he's in this class, I talked about maybe he's not. Maybe he'll end up going back to school. If he is in this class, dude's going top 10. The dude's going top 10. We're probably going to see him in the college football playoff. I certainly hope that we see him in the college football playoff because his talent warrants it. But certainly, monster game versus USC this past weekend. You saw it all from him. Now, the average depth of target's a little bit lower for him because I think that's just the nature of Oregon's offense. It's a lot of underneath stuff and then some throws over the top. But the accuracy, man, the adjusted completion percentage, I think it was like 86.5 against USC. Unbelievable. Almost a 90% adjusted completion percentage. Now, adjusted completion percentage is we're taking out drops, right? So if Dante Moore hits a wide receiver in the hands and he drops it, well, technically, for completion percentage, he doesn't get points for that. But for an adjusted completion percentage at PFF, we say, hey, you hit the wide receiver in the hands. You did what you needed to do. So that's the adjusted completion percentage. On the season, it's over 81%. That's exactly where you want to be. I mean, shoot, that's much higher than you want to be. Normally, when you have an adjusted completion percentage, you want something low to mid 70s is good. That's where you want to live. Anything in the 80s, you love to see that. The overall passing grade's elite. It's a 90.1. Big time throw percentage. Remember, I said that over 5% is really good. And he's over 6.5%. He's at 6.7% on the season. The turnover worthy play percentage below 2% as well. So Dante's having a hell of a year. He really is. And really the only question mark I have with him, he's such a great touch passer. He's so good at timing throws with how fast a wide receiver is running and getting in between zone coverages. The only thing I really have to knock on him right now is I just don't think he has top tier arm talent. He's somebody where, I'm not saying he's JJ McCarthy, but we're seeing this with JJ McCarthy where when you don't have top tier arm talent and when you're not anticipating at an extremely high level, when you're a little bit late on stuff, your fundamentals start to break down a little bit. You start putting a little bit more of your body into throws because you got to gun it in there because you got to make up for seeing it late. So in order for Moore to be the efficient quarterback that you want him to be at the NFL level with his current skill set, he really has to be able to process at a very high level and anticipate it at a very high level. And so that might take a little bit of time. So, but I do think that he gives you everything that you want as a starting quarterback at the NFL level when it comes to between the ears and how he's processing things clearly as a first-year starter with Oregon. But with him being a first-year starter, no guarantee that he leaves for the draft. But I do think that he keeps playing like this. Oregon's going to be in the college football playoff. They could get pretty far. And like I said, if he's in this class, I tell you he's going top 10. Hard to turn down the top 10. That's all I'm saying. Hard to turn it down. Who's picking at number 6? Oh, the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns now up at number 6. We'll stay with skill positions. Browns coming off of their first win with Shedeur Sanders. I think, especially with the 3 quarterbacks off the board, I'm not thinking about a quarterback here. I wouldn't think about Lenore Sellers. He has too much that he has to work on when it comes to his pocket presence. He really does. I think the most likely path for Lenore Sellers right now is he's going to go back to school. He's going to transfer. He's going to try to get in a new situation, and he's going to try to improve a little bit. And I think that's probably what I think is going to happen with Lenore Sellers. So with the Browns now instead at number 6, in my opinion, they have the worst wide receiver group in the NFL. Or at least the guys that they have been giving them the lowest return on investment here in 2025. And you can see a lot of that in their, efficiency scores, in their lack of explosive plays, missed tackles forced, their separation percentage, their overall PFF grades. You can see a lot of that stuff. I think Mekhi Lemon would immediately be wide receiver 1 for them. So I'm going to go with wide receiver 1. And because look, if Shedeur's going to be the guy, if you think that he could be their starting quarterback next year, you got to have the wide receiver to throw to. And it's got to be somebody who's not on the roster right now, because of all the guys who are on the roster, I think that there's talent. David Njoku is a good player, even though he's a free agent. Harold Fanning Jr. is a good player. Isaiah Bond's coming along as a vertical threat. I like Charles Tillman. Jerry Jeudy has just been really unreliable for them for the last couple of years, and he continues to be this year. But Mekhi Lemon, to me, is a stud. A major difference maker. Somebody who, honestly, reminds you of Jackson Smith-Njigba. And Smith-Njigba's having an unbelievable year, so I'm not saying that he's going to be exactly what JSN's been, but the skill set is there. I mean, he's got a little bit smaller of a body, so you think, maybe he's just only a slot-only type of a guy. He's not, man. I mean, he's got some serious contested catch ability, small catching radius, but when it hits his hands, it is his. He creates that separation so well. He wins with route running IQ and savviness. I think Mekhi Lemon is an excellent football player, that they try to get the ball in his hands in a variety of different ways. I think he could absolutely be considered as wide receiver 1 in this entire class. He's a stud. He's got it all, in my opinion, and he would be wide receiver 1 in Cleveland. So I like them going with the wide receiver pick there. They need offensive line. I thought about offensive line here. Francis Mauigoa, the offensive tackle from Miami. I think Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle from Utah, is actually the better choice, because Kevin Stefanski is more of a mid and outside zone type of a rushing attack that he has had in Cleveland. And I think that lends itself to more of what Fano likes to do, and how he had an elite run blocking grade when they were running a lot more zone blocking stuff in 2024. So I think they were going offensive tackle. He would be my choice there, but they are so void of difference-making talent at wide receiver that let's take a guy like Mekhi Lemon and talk about him in that offense. Sleeping Guardian back in the chat saying, who would the Raiders have taken if Dante Moore ends up going back to school? It's a good question. I would have given them Marvell Reese, the linebacker from Ohio State. That would have been my choice there, who we're going to break him down in a second, so it's good timing when you ask that question. But to me, he is he's the biggest difference-making defensive player that is left for them, and that's a defense that really needs it. They've been trying to make it work at linebacker with Devin White and Jamal Adams even. They really miss Robert Spillane. They really do. I think they miss Trayvon Merrick as well. That defense is just not what it needs to be, and I think that Arvell Reese is a difference maker for you as an off-ball and an on-ball linebacker. He could be an edge rusher for you. He could play a little bit of off-ball. It's what Ohio State's having him do. I think that he is best when he is on the ball, and you have him just as a pure edge rusher. I think that's where he's going to really make his money in the NFL, but that's what I would have gone with for the Raiders. Purple Sun saying Jordan Tyson needs to be a Buffalo Bill. I would be floored if the Buffalo Bills had the opportunity to take Jordan Tyson, but I don't agree. I don't disagree with the sentiment there. Dre Dots is saying Carnell Tate over Mekhi Lemon for me. I think there are people out there who would agree with you. I don't. I like Carnell Tate. He's still a top 15 player for me. He's close. He's in this conversation. But I would be taking Mekhi Lemon as my next wide receiver there. I think I just answered Buckeye's question in the chat. Carnell Tate would be my next wide receiver off the board, and I do have him very close. I think it's a trio of wide receivers in Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, and Carnell Tate, who we would talk about here for these teams. Ultimately, I think that Tate is I think he is a solid wide receiver, but I do think he lacks like top tier athleticism. And I think that Lemon has a little bit better of separation a little bit better of contested catchability, even with his size, a little bit smaller. I just think he plays a little bit more savvy, but Carnell Tate, I mean, I'm I'm nitpicking here because he's fantastic as well. If you wanted to pick Carnell Tate here for the Cleveland Browns as that wide receiver of choice, you wouldn't have much fight for me. Again, I would go Lemon, but you really wouldn't have too much fight for me. He is a top 15 player for me as well. Washington Commanders, I said that we were going to talk about Arvell Reese here in a second. That's who I'm going with the Commanders. They need one-on-one passers winners. And if the Commanders are drafting Reese, I think that they're drafting him to be an on-ball outside linebacker, meaning an edge rusher there. 14.4% passers win percentage this year for Reese, who is really ascending in how many snaps he has gotten. And the more workload they have given this guy, the more he has produced for them. So he's so explosive off the edge. His pound-for-pound strength, guys, unbelievable. I mean, he's going up against offensive tackles that have 100 pounds on him. And he's stacking and shedding them. He's getting off the block. He's disengaging. I mean, this dude is heck of an athlete, man. To be honest with you, I think that he is the player that a lot of people wanted Jalen Walker to be in last year's class from Georgia. Not saying that Jalen Walker can't be a good football player. I do certainly think that he can. But Reese is the kind of athlete. He's the kind of edge rusher. He is that kind of player that a lot of people thought that Jalen Walker was. And so I like Arvell Reese even more than I like Jalen Walker in last year. And I think he'd be perfect for the Commanders. I really do. Bengals, this one's super easy. If Pete Woods from Clemson's on the board, run it in. Run it in. In fact, I've been sprinting a little bit more these days. You know, the hamstrings warmed up. I'll do it for you. You hand me the card and I'll sprint it up to Roger Goodell and then he can read it off. They need difference-making defensive tackles. They need guys on the interior that can stop the run, certainly, but also can be one-on-one pass rush winners. They haven't had that guy since Geno Atkins. I mean, DJ Reed was great for them, but he was more of a run stuffer. They've been searching for that difference-making three-technique defensive tackle for years, since they've had Geno Atkins. And this guy can solve the problems for you. Clemson's not having a great year this year, and yet this guy's tape is still worthy of somebody that you would take number 10, or in the top 10, I should say. He can win with quickness. He can win with power. He can eat the double teams. He can do so much for you. I think that he should be in consideration, to be honest with you, to be picked within the top 5. If a team really needs defensive tackle, like the Saints, if the Saints aren't happy with Brian Brzee or the rest of their interior defensive line, they should seriously consider this guy. I think he is that talented. He plays really well. You see the solid grades overall from him. 74.2 overall PFF grade, 78.4 run defense grade, 74.5 pass rush grade, 10.4% run stopping rate, solo run stopping rate there for him. I think he's a major difference maker. I really do. You put him in a defensive line that could get some help around him, like I think the Bengals have the ability to do over the next couple of years with some of the young guys that they drafted. I mean, if you got Peter Woods and then you got Chris Jenkins Jr. next to him, I think that's a really formidable duo because Chris Jenkins, he's going to be a run stopper for you. He's going to be strong in the middle, but he's not going to be much of a pass rusher. You give this guy the green light to be a great pass rusher. I think he could be fantastic. I really do. Number 9, the Arizona Cardinals. This is where I am going offensive line. Jonah Williams, a free agent coming up this offseason. I don't think they are going to re-sign him, and I don't think that they have anybody waiting in the wings at offensive tackle. They really need somebody at that spot because Paris Johnson Jr. has been great for them at left tackle, but I'm going to go with Spencer Fano from Utah. That's the direction that I want to go here. They've got to make multiple additions to their offensive line this offseason. I was very shocked at how little the Arizona Cardinals did to address the offensive line this offseason. Now, I can't hate too much on it, right? Because they had money to spend. They went out and they got Josh Sweat, right? I think that was a big-time addition for them. You could look at the draft, Walter Nolan, Will Johnson falls right in their lap. They draft Jordan Birch because I think they thought the value was too good. You look at their defense overall, and you're very happy with the talent that they were able to acquire in free agency and in the offseason. And to be honest with you, defense is where they needed to spend a lot of their time. But when we went into this year, I was like, hey, I don't want to be, too harsh on them here, but that's the offensive line it looked rough in the preseason, in my opinion, and it still does right now. So depending on not even independent of what happens with Kyler Murray, whether Kyler Murray's still there next year or not, the offensive line's got to be a lot better. So we're going with Spencer Fano here at number 9. Number 10, we're going to round this thing out with cornerback Gerard McCoy from Tennessee. Now, This is probably a name that not a lot of people know. And the reason why is because Ramon McCoy has not played yet this season. He tore his ACL in January after the season last year, but just because he hasn't been top of mind with you seeing him play on Saturdays, do not let that change the fact that he had first round CB1 caliber tape last season. This guy's over 6 feet tall, 190, 195 pounds. He could play press man coverage better than any corner. That's right. I said it. Any corner in the country. I think he is fantastic. Go back and watch that game that he had against Alabama and Ryan Williams. Nobody in the country covered Ryan Williams better than Gerard McCoy did. Gerard McCoy had that guy in the walls of Jericho, as they say. He had him in the ankle lock. He had him begging for the ropes because he really couldn't get off the ball at all whatsoever. He couldn't get off the press at all whatsoever. He was step for step with him. The hips, they flip incredibly fast, incredibly fluid for a player of his size. He's got great strength, 78.8. Run defense grade last season, 13 forced incompletions. You see that coverage grade in man coverage situations. You can see that when you go over to PFF.com and you use a PFF Plus subscription. 80.3 grade versus man coverage. That's what we're talking about here. That is the player that the Dolphins need. They have to get an outside corner here that is a major, major difference maker. I didn't get Caleb Downs in the top 10, to be honest with you. And that honestly is probably on me. It's cardinal sin, but I loved so many of these fits. I love so many of these fits for these teams. Drono in the chat is saying, hey, Caleb Downs is the next Sean Taylor. Ty praise. It's not that far off, though. I hate super high comps because you put unrealistic expectations on these guys, and it's so hard for them to live up to it. But to be honest, like, Downs plays the game like Antoine Winfield Jr., who is a free safety, strong safety. Play him at the linebacker level, play him as a slot defender. He can do it all. He plays with such a high football IQ. The league just doesn't really prioritize safeties like that, right? Kyle Hamilton goes 14th overall. Antoine Winfield Jr. goes in the second round. We just don't get a lot of safeties that go very high. Derwin James, I know he had some injuries he was dealing with, but like Derwin James goes 17th overall. So the league just doesn't really view safeties like that. And I love Caleb Downs. He absolutely can be a top 10 pick, but that's really why I didn't have him as a top 10 pick here in this exercise. I promise you guys there will be plenty more mock drafts and team fits and everything where we get him in those conversations to be picked in the top 10 because I do agree with you there. But there we go, guys. There's our first top 10 NFL mock draft according to myself. And this was fun to do. It was fun to get into the mind of some of these teams, putting in some of these situations, just think about the possibilities, maybe trading down for some of these teams. But if they don't, obviously talking about what could work for them, the players that could be complementary pieces to what they already have, or building blocks that they just want to build around for the future. So there's a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. Hope you guys did as well. We're going to be with you every single week here at Bleacher Report, going through all sorts of different NFL draft exercises, obviously the mock drafts, but the player position rankings, some team needs episodes, all of that good stuff to have you guys ready. Of course, over at PFF.com, the NFL Stock Exchange show, you guys can see more of myself covering the draft 365 as well. So appreciate everybody tuning in a day before the holiday. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Enjoy a incredible week of football, and we will see you guys next week. Thanks so much for watching the BR Draft Board Show.